Hello, everybody. It is Saturday, January 14th, 2023, and three things are certain in life: death, taxes, everybody wants to buy WWE, and Chelsea can buy a new front three every single transfer window, and they still won't finish above Arsenal. Had to get that one in there today. As you can tell, us Arsenal fans aren't feeling too great about Chelsea sniping one of our top transfer targets. But anyway, let's talk about wrestling. Today, I am joined by Clark Taylor, Ignacio Pinales, and Coby Galenzoski. How are you guys?
Pretty good. From the frying pan into the fire, I just finished burying Soul. I'll take it to the table.
Interesting. Yeah. By the way, I love it. And is that a DDP in your hand there, Ignacio? Is that what I'm seeing? A little Diet Dr. Pepper?
Yeah, man. You know what? I run hot and cold on these. It's just that I guess it just depends where you're buying, how long they've kept it on the truck. Because I've had some Diet Dr. Pepper that's just flatter than 4 o'clock. But this one's pretty good today.
Couldn't be more on the same boat, because I do know something. When you're in South Texas, you need some DDP, and nobody knows it better than
what I need
from. Yeah, right. Like DDP is one of my all-time faves myself.
Well, after watching myself back on camera every time I see the shows, I need some DDP yoga. That's what I need.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, speaking of, by the way, I do too, to get a little more limber for sure. But happy to be here. How you doing, Coby?
I'm doing pretty fine. I'm pretty good.
Nice.
Well, that was riveting.
We're
gonna have to, get ourselves a DDP yoga subscription at this point. Soul's not happy with.
Oh wow, Soul,
what's new?
Remarkably aggressive.
And Melissa's mentioning the fact we're late starter, and we apologize. A take to the table ran over, so yes, scheduling conflicts here at Wrestling Republic, but we're here now.
I thought we decide when the show starts. I'm kidding.
But anyway, we're here now. We're on air now, finally, and we can talk. And I'm gonna kick it off in a big way. I'm going to kick it off talking about an exclusive that I have right now. I heard from somebody on the business end of WWE yesterday, and I was told about AEW, Tony Khan's interest in buying WWE. In case you guys haven't seen the rumors, it's come out that Tony Khan and his father are looking at, potential suitors to help them make a bid for WWE, and they're showing interest in the company. And the exact quote I got off WWE, or somebody in WWE, was, "People are flattered AEW is showing interest, but we have actual potential buyers as we speak." So, that's as far as, it goes. But I was talking about this earlier, right? No way are AEW going to actually buy WWE. It's not going to happen. But what it does mean is mainstream news sites are now talking about this smaller company, which is, interested in buying WWE. And this brings more eyes to AEW. It's a smart business move. It really, really is. People, explaining what AEW is, and they're learning what AEW is, the, casual fan, shall we say. But people are, saying, such an insult that they're saying AEW is a smaller company. No, it's factual, and it's getting more eyes on them. It's really, really not that bad. What are your thoughts on this, Clark?
So, the fantasy of combining the two rosters into some kind of, super promotion is incredible for any wrestling fan. Who would not be excited about, what you could do with that much? Now, if that were to be the case, wouldn't it just be the same old Monopoly thing we saw, and it would get stale after a while?
Yes.
That's the part of it that scares me, because the biggest thing I think I enjoy about AEW is I don't even think they're necessarily in direct competition yet, but they're at least, there's a voice in the back of the room that's loud enough that WWE can hear them. And I think for me, just strictly opinion wise, I would prefer that they stay separate. Because I think there's room for both. I think there's more than enough room for both. And I think it's good for everybody having both. And I think that's kind of the key for me. And so, but I also, to your point earlier that you made about how good of a business strategy it was to even express interest. Oh, yeah, it was. That was a good look, especially with the coming up on negotiations for the new TV deal. This is
Yeah.
one of the things where it's smart, but if you're asking my opinion on what do I think it would be, would I be satisfied if the Cons did buy WWE? I actually would prefer not.
Yeah.
Which may not be the expected answer there, but I would prefer they stay separate because I enjoy both products and I enjoy the fact that they're both different.
Absolutely. And also the other point I wanted to quickly add to that is, if AEW were to buy WWE, then can they really keep all these shows? Can they have Dynamite, Rampage, SmackDown, Raw, NXT? They can't. You'd have them clashing and people wouldn't watch. It's impossible.
Without the competition, there's almost no reason to have the that much saturation market wise shows.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your thoughts, Coby?
I mean, nothing that hasn't been said already. Like AEW or the Khan family buying WWE ain't gonna happen. Shad Khan's not gonna spend that much money on his son's passion project, if you want to call it that. At the end of the day, he has the funds. Is he going to use them? No way. I'd say there's like a 1% chance he actually would, or at least he would humor the idea. If it actually were to happen, you'd have the biggest monopoly since WWE. And like it'd be a bigger monopoly because you'd have the Khan family owning WWE, AEW, and Ring of Honor, which we already know we already see like the disarray that's happening with Ring of Honor. It wouldn't necessarily happen with WWE because there's the relationships in place. They have the TV deals. They would only be paying the talent. Nothing would change dramatically, but it's still not what's best for business at the end of the day.
No, absolutely not.
At the end of that's the thing. If you're in the wrestling business, this when people were making articles about Tony Khan says he's interested. Well, yeah, of course you're interested because you're going to be paying attention to everything you can. You're going to be sitting there. You're good. If he straight up said no, I don't care. You're lying.
Yeah,
everyone's interested from a business standpoint. Of course, he's going to pay attention to see who's buying, who's doing whatever with that company. Because I'm interested in buying it. You're interested in buying it. Clark's interested in buying it. Ignacio's interested in buying it.
We'd already bought it.
Doesn't mean it's going to happen. Exactly.
No, I mean, to be fair, I think the main point is that they're apparently locked in because his father actually can't afford it. His father's net worth is just over what apparently the cost would be, so he can't actually afford it. Because no way does he actually have that money in his pocket. That won't be the case. But they're looking for a suitable, a third party to come in. But I still don't think it'll happen. What are your thoughts, Ignacio?
Yeah, I think for them to even be seriously considered, they would have to offer Vince an exorbitant amount of money. Just branching off what you said, I think, yeah, man, Tony Khan's an old wrestling fan, of course, and he would have the ability, especially that he does have the ability, or his father has the ability and the funds, maybe not liquid or whatever, but through business contacts to purchase WWE. Yeah, of course he's interested, but is it actually going to happen? No. Even if they do say they would have a place or some role for Vince McMahon. Yeah, I don't see Vince McMahon taking orders from Tony Khan or Shad Khan or what have you. So I think I think Vince would probably sell to the Saudis before he sold to Tony and Shad Khan. So yeah, I think it's much ado about nothing. But I do think this, something I mentioned on the other show, is that I think Vince has one price tag and he has another. He has a price tag that says, because I read earlier that I think it was on Fightful that the NBC, the Comcast and Disney said, yeah, we're interested in buying the company, but there's no place for Vince McMahon on there because of the allegations or whatever. And I think Vince McMahon has one price tag for that scenario, and he has a price tag for a scenario where he is involved. The price tag where he's not involved in anything with the company is higher than the price tag that he would have involvement with the company. So it's like, okay, you don't want me around. The price tag is 10 billion or whatever. I'm just throwing a number out there. If, having me involved, the price tag is 6, 7 billion, 8 billion, whatever, is what have you. So I do think that is the scenario that if Vince, I'm not involved, this is the price. Vince, I am involved, this is the price. I do think that is a scenario, but the Khan's buying the Khan's actually buying a WWE and having a role with Vince in there, that's highly unlikely. My opinion.
Definitely. Go ahead, Ben. Sorry.
I was just going to add to that point and say that I honestly, okay. So as far as everybody in WWE saying, right, they're saying, it's business as usual. Creative will stay the same, and unless the owners wanted to change things, Vince would not be involved after the purchase of the sale. However, that is exactly what they would say, regardless of the situation. So I'm going to be honest, we don't know either way, do we? And the fact, me and Clark spoke about this the other day, if they continually say that business is fine or, business as usual, then it's not business as usual because they wouldn't need to mention that every other minute.
Correct.
But it's going to be an ongoing situation. This is going to be an ongoing situation for months. That is what I've been told. There's rumored that Saudi Arabia, and a few reports today have said that Saudi Arabia is not the favored buyer, and that doesn't surprise me. But the one thing I will say on it is that these reports don't state who the favored buyer is. And when I spoke to somebody in WWE last week, I was told that they still haven't decided on a favored buyer. So I don't know about these reports that are coming out today about Saudi Arabia are remotely true about anyway. But what I will link it back to is something that I heard in late 2021, and I wrote a report about at the time, and that was that at the time, Nick Khan and Vince McMahon were setting the company up to be sold to Disney. That's who they were hopeful for them. They were hopeful for them to buy it, and of course, Nick Khan met with Disney CEO as well as ESPN's last Monday. So if I had to put my money on who their favorite buyer would be, it would be Disney, but I'm not sure if they're going to offer more than Saudi will. But who knows on that one. But we'll now move on to last night's episode of SmackDown, which actually opened with a match between Gunther and Braun. And we all know that I'm not always the biggest fan of Braun in the ring, but his match last night with Gunther was really, really fun. It was, the finish, the powerbomb finish spot, it kind of got botched as Braun fell on his knee a little. It didn't look great. But apart from that, I really enjoyed the match. I thought it was, probably Braun's one of his favorite matches, one of my favorite matches of Braun's to date. What were your thoughts, Clark?
So I thought and I don't want to take any credit away from Braun, but I thought, obviously Gunther being known as the ring general, the idea to really work that shoulder and that arm with the hold and everything to kind of tell that aspect of the story, to carry it along and to almost set up, not literally, but figuratively set up for Braun's big spots around. And then not big spots, but you know what I mean? Braun got some offense in. He looked good against Gunther. He didn't get squashed, right? He didn't get squashed.
Yeah. No, absolutely, he didn't.
And I thought the way it started with the arm and shoulder being worked, and then it played from there. I think it was one of those things where Gunther literally was the ring general last night, I guess is what I would say.
Yeah.
Right? He called the shots, he called the spots, and it looked as good as Braun can look, I think. Almost.
No, I agree. I mean, he's now had a few good matches in a row since his return, to be honest.
No, he has, no doubt. I was impressed by him and Omos.
Even I was too,
to be honest, because I thought that would be the floppy of flops, and that is, yes, pun intended on the flippity floppity tweet thing. But I've been impressed by Braun's performances, and this was another one. And the powerbomb spot was interesting, but outside of that, I didn't have many complaints. I also, though, don't want to take any praise away from Gunther. He's that good.
No,
He is that good. It's that simple. He's that good.
And I mean, it comes back round as well to, you know, Braun absolutely has, you know, he carried Omos in that match, and since he's returned, he's really, you know, he's really upped it to another level.
Right.
But it takes two to tango. And not only that, but we all know how good Gunther is, you know, the amount of classic matches he's had in his career.
No doubt.
And they at the time, I wasn't very excited for the match or excited for the feud, but they've done great. A really fun match. Glad it was a clean ending. And yeah, I'm you know, excited to see perhaps more in the future. What are your thoughts, Coby, on the match between Gunther and Braun Strowman on last night's episode of SmackDown?
So I don't want to say this will be hot take central, but this is hot take central. The return that is firing on all cylinders to me is Braun Strowman. Bray Wyatt had the great return, and he's been off and on for his stuff. LA Knight's overshadowing him. Damage Control's having their ups and downs. Clark said it multiple times live on air. We don't need to revisit that conversation.
Which damage
Braun
are they
Strowman
controlling?
has been on fire with the crowd. He is no way, shape, or form struggling to get a reaction from the crowd. What?
Yeah, no,
100%. He did his stuff with Omos, which at the time was a better match than Brock and Lashley, which I still believe it was. And then he's been doing the stuff with Gunther and Imperium, and his stuff with Ricochet's just overall fun.
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty sure I said this for this match at not last night, but yesterday's daily broadcast is what's next. And that's from someone who's thinking in a booking or a booking mind or a booking standpoint, that's something you got to be thinking of. So what is next? I could see something like Imperium take out the Brawling Brutes, and then Braun and Ricochet get added to the tag tournament that Adam Pearce announced, because that'd be fine. I'd be fine. Ricochet can take the fall against the Usos. But I'd be like, because I think that pairing of Braun and Ricochet is just enjoyable, and I wasn't not expecting the match to deliver, but it was good. Like, I wasn't expecting it to deliver on the level of Gunther Ricochet, but Gunther Braun was solid. Like, I don't think this was Gunther's worst defense, which I think, tell me if I'm wrong, I would say was Shinsuke, which is odd.
Yeah, actually, we might be right on that. But the other thing I wanted to I did want to add is that I think I always stated this on the podcast. Whoever the Usos face of the Raw and SmackDown tag team titles, I think they're going to lose both matches. And I think this is going to, build up. I think the Bloodline is going to go to absolute crap for them over the next in the build up to Mania. Obviously, I think Roman will continue winning, but I mean, outside of him, I think the Usos are going to lose both the SmackDown and Raw tag team titles. Otherwise, the other one will look weak. So I think they must be about to lose them both. Now, Ignacio, what are your thoughts on the match last night?
Yeah, bro, I thought it was really, really good. I thought it was a tremendous match. Probably Strowman's one of his best performances, but then you have Gunther leading the way, so it's just kind of like, makes sense. No, it didn't deliver like Ricochet did, because it's a different type of match, because it's another big man match. But I'll say this: that coming off of Kobe's point, yeah, man, Strowman's over. Like that crowd in Green Bay last night was really hot. And it like you could have had a WrestleMania sell out there hot, kind of, It was good crowd. And he's been doing some promotional stuff with the Green Bay Packers, like on Instagram and stuff like that. And he wore the shoes.
Oh, those boots are cool.
He wore it in dedication to a child or that passed away last year.
Yes,
during a parade in Green Bay.
Tragically,
and I don't get the white pants, but whatever. It's just
I hear that.
But I mean, it was a real good performance. He can sell, not just in Green Bay because the crowd was hot, but every arena they're at, he gets the big pop. So they got something there with Strowman, because he's got good crowd engagement. He's got a ring presence. He commands the rings sometimes, and that's really good. So yeah, he's over delivering in my opinion since his return. The match itself was pretty good. I thought he did a really good job selling. Gunther likes wrestling big guys because he can lay his shit in, and Strowman can take it, and he laid it in too. It wasn't like not like on Dynamite or Ramp or whatever in AEW that they do the forearm bit. It's like phony because it's like, yeah, give me more. No, it's like they hit, they sold. They hit, they sold. So it was a good exchange. And then the whole deal with the power bomb, is I saw Strowman land on his ankles and then his back, which was like, whoa, like he still landed. I thought he hit his head on the mat, but anyway, it overall it was a good match. I thought this was a solid show overall, but it was a great opener. I mean, Gunther, they're both over. I don't necessarily like his stuff he's been doing with Ricochet, but I think they're both over. And Strowman's like not less over than he was when he lost the match. Now that he's lost the match, because he lost to Gunther, he lost to a fighting force. You see what I mean? So yeah. I thought it was tremendous overall. Good angle, good match, good build-up.
Yeah, and I just want to quickly go back now to something that Coby said just a minute ago, and that is that it's a really good point, right, about him, maybe having the best return. But not only that, he has improved so much since his last run. It's like he's basically done he's done some events at Control Your Narrative. Shout out to them. Shout out to EC3 as well. But a good friend of Wrestling Republics. But yeah, it's it's one of those things where I did not expect him to come back this good. I was really, really surprised about it. And I'm looking in these comments right now, and Soul is in the comments saying, I was blackout drunk last night, so I'm learning about SmackDown from you lads. Bet it was mid. It was not. It was a good show, in my opinion. Take to the table. Also, in the comments, we got Ignacio on stream and Soul and Chaos in the comments. We got the full take to the table show tonight. And Laurie Taylor, shout out to you. Two very different cultures. This it would be very difficult to combine both AEW and WWE, and I agree with that completely. It would have been very, very tough to do. But yeah, I think the comments are acknowledging that Soul likes a drink. But yeah, in other
shout
news,
out Soul.
Yeah, shout out to Soul. He will be on tomorrow's show, I believe. So we'll get to see him then. But yes, let's now head on to actually right before we get to the main event. I'm gonna throw in something. Bray Wyatt last night did a segment, and it was the Eater of Worlds, the return of his old gimmick, kind of. He was bringing it back. That music played, and it was all like that. And it's caused a divide on social media. Some people found it a bit boring. They didn't think it was long enough. What do you think, Clark?
To be totally honest, I don't hate it at all. I loved I'm a Bray fan, and it's something. And it's a pitch for the match. If he's gonna work a different gimmick every match, that could be cool. I don't know. I feel like I'm as confused on the Bray thing as anybody at this point. It was weirdly one that I enjoyed more than some of the other recent ones because of the sound alone and the old logo, and it felt a little nostalgic. He kind of did the old Swamp Leader Wyatt too with the voice, and so I dug it. But at the end of the day, I'm still just waiting for the next chip to fall on the Bray Wyatt story, and I'm hoping it's a big one.
Yeah,
because
Rumble match needs to be good.
Yeah, I really want it to work, but I guess that's where I would go with that one. I think it was entertaining, and it was cool, for the nostalgia aspect. But that's at the end of the day, it wasn't much more.
Yeah. And I'm going to head to you, Coby, next, because I know that you weren't a huge fan of this segment. I was wondering, why was that? Like, what were your issues with
it? So the one thing I saw was it was short. I don't think that's the thing. His entrance was longer than his dialogue. Whatever. At the end of the day, he's been taking the smallest steps possible and with the Uncle Howdy reveal and the Uncle Howdy sister Abigail, things were starting to pick up. To me, this was a step backwards because we don't know why he was in the rocking chair. He said, "Oh, I am him. I am the Eater of Worlds. I am," like a couple other things, but I don't know exactly the quote because I'm not remembering everything. I don't need to, but it was like there was a missing plot hole, or something should have been done last week to get us to him in the damn chair. Like, the only Uncle Howdy related stuff that we've seen is the Raw stuff, which as of right now is a totally different story, but it is. But I digress.
Yeah.
I'm not, like, that's the thing. I've shared my concern, especially on social media. I've been getting, or not on social media, but on a TikTok comment I made, I've been getting targeted as a not targeted, but I've been getting the blah blah blah. But LA Knight I don't know what'll happen with LA Knight. Because I know this was a Dave Meltzer statement, and yes, you can think of Dave Meltzer as a wrestling mind, as a overhyped or oversaturated content that people take his ratings for as gospel, or his opinions as gospel. He said it as Bray. There are rarely people that come out of working a feud with Bray Wyatt and coming out of it benefiting or looking good. LA Knight has been the better half of this rivalry. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But I don't know if, especially in at the Rumble, I don't know if there's a position where we can see that.
Yeah.
Will LA,
where he's not buried, right?
Unless
Coby?
LA Knight goes over, I do not see a position of LA Knight coming out of this looking good or being in a better position.
Well, I mean, I've said it quite a few times that LA Knight's actually too old for what they're looking for. So I mean, I'm not hugely surprised.
He's so good though.
He is, but he's like he's probably a bit too old. He's like
Come
7
on,
years older
man.
than they're looking for. Like it's
I know he's old, but so what? So was the Boogeyman.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule, but is he good enough to be an exception to the rule? That is the discussion that's to be had. What do you think, Ignacio?
Yeah, I just think everything that with Bray Wyatt that's been building up so far, it's gonna depend on what happens to the Royal Rumble, whether fans they're gonna be with it or not. I know that's my take on it. Like there's some things along the line that not necessarily that they haven't made sense. They've made sense. It's just kind of branching off that what you guys have been saying is he's taking the smallest steps possible in building this thing. That at the Royal Rumble, people are thinking like it better be worth it. Like like something good has to happen, or else we're just gonna forget about this guy and move on to someone else, Karrion Kross or Strowman or whoever. But I think unless something big happens at WrestleMania, that's going to determine probably Bray Wyatt's fate going forward, whether we're going to be with him or not. He's got great crowd reaction and all that stuff and the build up. And I think the promos have been good, but yeah, it's just going to depend on what happens at the Rumble. LA Knight, I just think they picked LA Knight as his first opponent or program because LA Knight's very well versed at the verbal jousting exchange. He does great promos. He's a good in-ring worker and so forth. But I don't think I see anything, or probably they see anything for LA Knight going on forward. I think it was just probably a good start for Bray Wyatt, the good starter program for him to get him on TV, introduce him to the fan base that probably wasn't very familiar with his work, or new fans or lapsed fans or whoever. LA Knight's was good all around for that, so that's why they put him in place. But as far as, him being launched into a main event position, I don't see that for LA Knight going forward. Probably solely based because he is a little bit older. He is 40, 41 years old. So I think that's probably the primary contributing factor. But to put it in a nutshell, Bray Wyatt, everything leading up to now is going to depend, and his fate going forward is going to happen what's going to happen at the Royal Rumble. That's going to be the focus on it.
Yeah, no, I do actually completely agree with you on that point. The the Royal Rumble needs to deliver for many reasons for WWE, especially after last year's Rumble, but also because, of this match, that match in particular really, really needs to deliver. And Chaos saying in the comments that Soul needs an AA meeting, and Soul's replying, you mean alcoholic awesomeness, already had a few meetings. Great. We're going to have to find a way now.
He's not an alcoholic unless she's trying to quit, so let's give him a break.
That's true, yeah. I'm now going to have to flip him. We're now going to have to find a way to pay for DDP yoga and rehab for Wrestling Public, so that's going to be that's our new business plan in 2023. But let's move on to the final segment of SmackDown, and that was Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn, a match a lot of people were excited for, and a match which I was very, very concerned about, because quite truthfully, you want Sami Zayn to continue looking strong because, he's inevitably going to have a match against Roman Reigns at Elimination Chamber. However, you also need Kevin Owens to look strong because he's got a match with Roman Reigns at, the Royal Rumble. So basically, there was only one thing they could do, and that was the disqualification. And they did it in a very, very good way. And the way they did it was Paul Heyman told Sami Zayn earlier in the night that the Usos and Solo Sikoa had gone home for the evening. They weren't going to be ringside for his match, as Roman Reigns wanted to give Sami the chance to do it himself and prove himself. However, that was a complete lie. And they, just wanted to throw off Kevin Owens. And after the match, they took out Kevin Owens in a big, big way, caused a disqualification, and then put Kevin Owens through the table. Sami Zayn was very hesitant about all of this. He didn't look too happy at all because he only wanted the opportunity to prove himself to Roman. And at the end, when they all threw up, the Bloodline 1 symbol, he basically just he did it very slowly. He was very cautious. He did not look like he was too happy to be there. Is this the start of Sami Zayn turning on the Bloodline? What do you think, Clark?
I loved it so much, and I didn't quite call it. I think I was the only one on yesterday's show that didn't pick Kevin Owens to win the match clean. And I presented a scenario where Sami would almost the exact same thing they did, but Sami would pin him by kind of default. That's not exactly how they went, but I still loved the direction that they went because Sami's facial expressions during the absolute end and the finish were so spot on and so hesitant, them really beating up Kevin. And by the way they wrestled the match, if you cut it before the shenanigans and the DQ, it was what more could you ask for than Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn? But it was a high quality main event all the way until it was about to be a Helluva Kick, I believe. I thought what was coming next when the Bloodline made their run in, and then you see the run in, and it's so great because we just talked about the slow moving thing on the Bray Wyatt thing. It's slow moving, but there's so much nuance and so much detail that it's riveting throughout. It's like you almost have to overthink it to the point that I probably have to be sitting here and go wait a minute. They're just nudging it along. And they are, but that's the brilliance of this storyline. I think it's the best thing going right now, period. And I think Sami Zayn's the MVP of it. I think it's the best storyline going in wrestling, and it has been for a long time. And Sami Zayn's the MVP, and once again delivered last night because that's just what they do. It's just been good. Even his Heyman segment early in the show, it was comedy. It was hysterical. It was great. And it pulled on old fans' heartstrings, new fans' heartstrings. Even the ending with that's not a prediction, it's a spoiler. It was excellent. What more could you ask for? And I think
Heyman's face too when he said that, because Heyman knew it wasn't going that way.
Oh, it was so good. And especially in hindsight, it's even better than when you watch it live. And I think right now, given the form we're in, somebody's got to hand Sami his flowers because he deserves them. That dude is on fire. As good as good as it gets right now.
Yeah, absolutely. He has been, he's been truly the MVP of SmackDown.
Yeah.
SmackDown as of late. So may claim to be the MVP of Wrestling Republic, but Sami Zayn has a real claim to the MVP of SmackDown. Only joking. So, but he can argue that point with me on Wrestling Republic Daily tomorrow when he will be there. We'll be back the normal time tomorrow. But
Absolutely.
Coby, what were your thoughts on that main event last night? Because of course I know you have an interest in both of these men.
So I think a lot of people were expecting this type of action from the tag match. The big tag match that was supposed to be 2 weeks ago. I was expecting that tag match to go longer because you could have rolled with Kevin and Roman doing stuff and Kevin and Sami just tearing the house down like they do on a normal basis. But I saw this tweet and of course it's grinding my gears because of course it's either going to be satire where they don't actually mean it or they actually do. But it was just like, oh, you how can you be Booker in the year but have Kevin and Sami end in a DQ finish? Well, this was my explanation to the tweet. I said, Kevin can't take a loss because he's going to face Roman Reigns. Neither can Sami. And even from a standpoint of what WWE and what SmackDown is, it's a weekly, episodic program. And this match did its job. It got you invested in Kevin and Sami. It got you invested in Sami Zayn's mannerisms and the way his emotions was coming through, his expression. And at the end of the day, this got you, I don't want to say this got you excited, but this prepared you for next week because we're getting a contract signing, but we don't know the status of Kevin Owens because he took a beating. He took the spike, which they're really selling as I don't want to say a deadly move, but a dangerous move. From a standpoint and a storytelling standpoint, it did its job. And just to talk about Sami Zayn getting the flowers, when COVID, or I guess not when COVID, but when they were still in the Thunderdome, they had a match before WrestleMania. What was it? 37 was the ship? Yeah.
37 was the show, yeah.
37 was the ship. It was either 2 or 3 weeks before WrestleMania. On SmackDown, they built a match as the match that nobody wanted, and that was Baron Corbin versus Sami Zayn. And that was the character they were going with, as Sami Zayn is that much of nobody cares. And nobody wants to see this guy on the program. And then he's doing his shit. He did his shit
conspiracy
with Johnny Knoxville. His conspiracy. He carried Johnny Knoxville through a wrestling storyline and then an entertaining match. And then look at him now. He's in the biggest storyline of all of wrestling. He's in his stock is at its mountain peak. We hear Theory and Seth talking about, oh, you're at the top of the mountain. Oh, I'm coming for the peak or whatever. Sami Zayn is at his peak. He is the most valuable. He's at the most valuable point he's ever been in his career, and I love it because years ago there was a point where I was a Sami Zayn's my favorite wrestler going on. Then the heel turn happened. Then his stuff happened. It was now it's like, I'm vindicated. I was vindicated saying that now. Back then, and he deserves his flowers, 100%.
He absolutely does. And some of the stuff he's been given is really hard to pull off as well, and he's pulled it off fantastically. Honestly, that was a fantastic point. I could not possibly agree more. But now let's head over to Ignacio. What were your thoughts on the main event of SmackDown last night?
Well, as far as the match itself, you got Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn involved, and they're against each other. They're going to deliver 100%. But I thought anything the Bloodline is involved in, and any member, it's all storyline progression and progressing the storyline forward. And this whole show on SmackDown, every segment progressed forward to the next week and into the Royal Rumble, right? Everything meant something. And that goes for the Bloodline's storyline and segments also. Everything means something. Everything adds to the story. So in the story here, going off of what Coby mentioned about the tweets or whatever, the story here isn't Kevin versus Sami. The story here is Royal Rumble, Kevin versus Roman, and Sami being a pawn in the bloodline, and Roman using him to do his bidding, just as a stooge. You know what I mean? The story's Kevin versus Roman, Royal Rumble, and eventually Roman versus Sami at Elimination Chamber. That's the story. Kevin versus Sami isn't the story. They're a part of the story. So for those who were disappointed in, there not being a finish, or this guy didn't go over, or this guy should have went over, that's not the story, right? It's just part of the story. So I thought it was a very good match, very good storyline progression. I think both are going to get a great pop whenever they go to their respective matches, especially, everybody's just waiting for that moment that Roman turns on Sami or vice versa, and it's edging closer and edging closer. And then when it climaxes, man, it's going to be a big moment for Sami. And now, do I think he's going to get a run for the title or what have you? No, I don't think that's in the cards for him, at least at this point or juncture. But good storyline progression. Everybody plays their part. Paul Heyman, Sami Zayn, the Usos, everybody plays their part very well. So this was a very good segment. It was a very good show overall. Storyline progression all the way around in all segments. So I wasn't disappointed at all. It was a very good show on SmackDown.
No, I agree with you there. And also we said about this about Raw this week. It wasn't a good show. They did build towards the Rumble, but it was not a good show. But SmackDown this week didn't just build to the Rumble, which, like you mentioned, it did fantastically, but it also was a really entertaining watch. And that's the balance which you need to find. And it's the real difficulty of weekly wrestling, television. Because on one hand, you really, you need to make the show entertaining. You need to make sure people keep on coming in and watching each week. But on the other hand, you also need to build up, to get people to, traditionally buy the pay-per-view, now buy a Peacock-WWE Network subscription. So I do agree, it's a very tough thing to do, and SmackDown had it, in my opinion, pretty much perfect. Yes, it was a DQ finish, but it was a surprising DQ finish. It wasn't something which, we saw really coming. I mean, a couple of people did, but most people did not. And also, Sami's acting in it was, tremendous. And just overall, I thought it did its job. I'm even more excited for the Rumble now. And like you said, every single week, every single episode, they're building closer to that Sami Zayn Roman Reigns turn. And man, am I hyped for it.
How about that grin on the hug last week? That's the one that got me. The little look that Roman gave, that was so subtle and so brilliant. I loved every second of that.
The attention to detail in this feud it's perfect.
No doubt.
This is how wrestling should be. We've said it over and over again, but this is the best storyline in wrestling right now. Undoubtedly, nobody can deny it.
No
but I think that's pretty much it for today's show. But it's been an absolute blast, guys. And we'll be back tomorrow evening. We'll be back 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. UK time, 3 p.m. Eastern in America, and then 12 p.m. Eastern. So basically,
noon on the West Coast, 9 a.m. Hawaiian.
Okay, cool. And what's that? Central? 2 Central, I believe it is as well.
Yeah, 2 Central, 1 Mountain.
Soul's commenting this as well. Remember to tune in for the second part of the Soul Session Season 2 premiere tomorrow on Wrestling Republic's YouTube channel. Promote the MVP of the Republic show, boss man. No, you're not the MVP.
So cocky, Soul.
We're
watch the show.
About this tomorrow.
Yeah, don't let him have that.
We're gonna break this down tomorrow on tomorrow's episode. But yes, make sure you check out the Soul Sessions, which is going up tomorrow. It's gonna be, it's a hell of an episode. If you haven't seen part 1 already, make sure to check it out. But thank you, everybody, and we will see you again tomorrow evening. Goodbye.